Want to get creeped out? Let's read a Reddit story of someone who tried the elevator game. Do not play the elevator game. Words of a big-time skeptic. This is a really experience that I recently had, which completely vanquished my skepticism regarding the paranormal. So I came to know about this weird urban legend known as the elevator ritual. For those of you who don't know what it's all about, check out The Ghost in My Machine, and he leaves a link for that. The other world sounded really intriguing, and I decided to go ahead with the ritual one fateful Saturday evening. I lived in a flat on the 11th floor of a building, so despite popular advice, I decided to perform the ritual in my own building, using the elevator I use daily. I walked out of my apartment with a steely resolve and reached the elevator. Something in my mind advised me against what I was about to do, but my skepticism got the better of me, and down I went to the first floor in order to begin the ritual. As I heard the ping of the elevator as I reached the first floor, I went on with the 4-2-6-2-10-5-1 routine. Not a damn thing happened, although my heart was in my mouth out of anxiety and anticipation. There was no woman on the 5th floor, and the elevator didn't ascend to the 10th floor as soon as I pressed the button for the first floor. This was a huge ego boost for my skeptic self. I returned to my flat using the same elevator, feeling victorious. However, as the night went on, I just couldn't sleep. I usually have such a hectic day. I am sound asleep by 11:30 p.m. at max, but something was really off about that night. I twisted and turned on my bed the whole night and woke up exhausted and covered in sweat. After my chores, since it was a Sunday, I went out to get some groceries. To my surprise, the damn elevator was out of order. I immediately made the mental connection of the damaged elevator to my performance of the ritual. I got very intrigued. I took the stairs, went out, got the groceries, and had a pretty normal Sunday. By 10 p.m., I was all ready to sleep when I heard a loud, shrill cry outside my door, which was strange as the only other people on my floor were out on vacation. I went out to inspect the noise, and I saw wet footsteps with a slight maroon tint to them, kind of like mud but slightly redder, like somebody has had a slight cut on their feet after walking in some muddy terrain. I followed the footsteps out of my stupid curiosity, and to my utter shock, they led to the elevator, which surprisingly was no longer out of order. Something in my mind compelled me to get into the elevator, go to the ground floor, and check out with the security guard who had signed in to visit the 11th floor. And down I went. 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, ping! The elevator doors opened slower than they usually do, as if unveiling something grand on the 5th floor instead of the lobby I was intending to go to. A woman with dark hair wearing a black tattered evening gown entered the elevator. Something inside me clicked immediately, and I wished I could run out of the elevator. However, something in me froze, disabling me from moving. My gaze fixed at her feet, and I understood the source of those footsteps. Worn and torn skin dangled from her feet as if she was rotting from the inside out. And the smell, nothing can even be close to it. It was like a bunch of rotting corpses shoved into one person. Gross. Looked up at her, she had a grin on her face, that evil, sinister, spine-chilling grin, which washed away my skepticism forever. At that point, I knew the only way I was getting out of the elevator alive was by completing the damn ritual. I pressed the button for the first floor, and the elevator began ascending upwards. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, ping! As much as I wished to get to the bottom floor and run out for dear life, I had this primal compulsion to run out as soon as the doors opened. I now understood why people get off the elevator on the 10th floor despite it being so risky. You just want to get away from the woman. As I ran out, her voice was in my mind.
Where are you going, Sammy?
Scared I ran, only to discover my utter solitude in the other world. It was like the hallway was endless. I couldn't get away from the elevator no matter how far I ran. I was stuck in some sort of loop. I briefly caught the sky outside through the corner of my eye and saw the reddish sky, which I used to treat as fictional crap upon listening to others' experiences. There even was the fabled burning cross in the sky. As soon as I saw it, I couldn't move away my gaze, as if in a trance. The cross was laden with limbs and body parts, which seemed to have been ripped off of bodies. I summoned all my will, looked away and pressed the button to summon the elevator. To my surprise, and contrary to what I had read otherwise, the elevator opened up instantly. I got inside and reverse performed the ritual without any interference, surprisingly. Down I went to the first floor and canceled the ascension on time. I rushed out, traumatized, scared, and scarred. I took the stairs to the 11th floor to my apartment and crashed senseless on my bed. As soon as my eyes were shut, I was back in the other world. This time, my run was accompanied by her chase and followed by a sudden wake-up. I went through my day as bravely as I could, fearing the inevitable night and the sleep it contained. I tried to stay awake as late as I possibly could, but I don't know when I was back there again. This time, she was dead ahead of me. I had no way of escaping. Her long, torn-out finger touched my abdomen. I was completely frozen. It was like proper sleep paralysis. Her finger went through my skin and into my body. I felt a jolt of pain around my abdomen and woke up with a start. I was burning up. I had a dark red mark on my abdomen, scared to the marrow. I went to the ER, internal bleeding it was. That's when I knew I had to seek help. I went through some cleansing rituals on the internet while I was lying on the ER bed. The pain meds were kicking in. My lightheadedness came with a feeling of despair as I knew I wouldn't wake up from another sleep. I dragged my body to the chapel in the hospital. I prayed for the first time in my entire 25 years of life, just to keep me alive for one more night. I don't know when I slept, but the next thing I remember was waking up to the sound of the janitor cleaning up the chapel. I realized I had gone through the night unscathed. I immediately checked out of the hospital, bought some sage, cleansed my entire house, myself, and my surrounding premises. It's been a week without any night terrors. However, I constantly feel a presence watching me as I get out of my house and cross the elevator to take the stairs. I know it for a fact that I am alive as long as my faith is. That was the first part that he shared, and this is the second. So after the last incident, as many of you suggested, I sought help from a priest, got my house cleansed, and even got a crucifix blessed by the priest, which I keep with me at all times. After I posted last night, I received a message on my cell phone. It was from an old friend of mine. He was like,
"Are you okay? Why did you mess with the paranormal and how are things now, etc."
I explained the situation to him and we had a long chat. I got to know that he had an experience with the other world as well. I asked him to come over the next day to tell me his tale as I was too scared to listen to the story and then go to sleep alone. I put my crucifix under my pillow and went to sleep, and nothing eventful happened throughout the day until the next evening when Alex came over. It was dark outside and around 9 p.m. I expected him to come over earlier as I didn't want to hear about the stuff so close to bedtime, but upon seeing him, I forgot my concern as we were meeting after a long time. We had a couple of beers and sat down to discuss his incident. I hung up my crucifix over the edge of my chair and sat down to listen. He was in front of me on another chair. I had laid down some salt around my flat, which I have been doing since that day. Alex's story. His inclination towards the supernatural had begun since he was a kid and had seen a woman jump off the adjoining house balcony, only to discover later that the house had been abandoned since a long time ago and nobody could have possibly entered it. His stupid curiosity made him stumble across a ritual known as the Hooded Man. For those who don't know what it is, read the instructions here. I'll have to do a video on the Hooded Man because I actually don't know what that one's about. So he went on with the whole tying the black cord, dialing the number, hello, I need a cab shenanigan. After some time, he looked out his window and voila, there it was, a black cab. He went in, slept in the back seat, and woke up at 3:33 instead of 3:30. However, he attributed the delay to his checking his watch a moment after waking up and not immediately. He went to sleep again. Upon waking, he found the cab moving on a very unfamiliar road. No markings on the tarmac, as if it wasn't meant for anyone to tread on. He noticed the hooded man driving the cab. As much as he wanted to end the ritual, something glued him to his seat. The surroundings were eerily entrancing, making him freeze in his place. In the meantime, I went into the kitchen to get another beer. That's when I noticed it was getting stormy outside. There had been no forecasts However, it looked like it was about to rain like hell. I realized I had left my crucifix over the chair. A chill ran across my spine upon the sudden realization. I felt a pair of eyes burning holes on my back. I ran back to Alex and sat back down. Just when he was about to resume, the lights flickered briefly and a gust of wind blew across the room. I blamed it on the weather and Alex continued. Alex's story continues. The way he described the other world, there was a striking similarity to what I had seen out of the elevator. The same reddish sky, the burning cross in the sky, the corpses, and most disturbingly, the stench. As he had seen more than he could grasp and was about to end the ritual, the cab came to a screeching halt. An old woman in a morning gown boarded the cab. Now, although Alex had his heart in his mouth, he knew better than to react, as he was way more conscious of the rules than I was. He kept his cool. The woman was staring at him and he could feel her eyeballs roll onto him. Weird way to put that. The cab was filled with an unbearable stench, and that's when she said in what sounded like a man in a woman's body,
"Hic non reciperant vos."
Unable to grasp what it meant, but scared out of his wits, he said gently yet firmly,
I have reached my destination.
He was back home in a moment, called and thanked the hooded man, ending the ritual. Even his careful ass seemed to forget about burning the black cord. He woke up with a start when he remembered that he had up. He burnt the thing, buried it, and poured salt over the burial site. However, the entire day he was plagued with anticipation as to what would happen at night, since he had messed up the ritual. As the night dawned, nothing out of the ordinary happened. However, just when he was about to sleep, he heard a thud just outside his window. He had immediate goosebumps when he saw the woman from last night standing right where the cab had first appeared. He immediately surrounded his house with rock salt and clutched his Bible and went to sleep, only to have a restless night. For weeks later, he was always feeling a sensation of being followed and stalked, as if a silent stalker was always watching him. One night, he was in the washroom and the mirror had fogged up. From the corner of his eye, he noticed a dark silhouette just behind him. Upon turning, nothing. That's when he realized salt ain't gonna cut it. He got his house, exercised, and everything began to normalize apart from the occasional sensation of being followed. After the story,
Damn, bro.
I said,
That's exactly what's happening to me after the elevator ritual.
I began describing my sensations when the room began to get really cold, to the point where we were almost shivering. I blamed the weather outside again. Suddenly, the lights went out. Ping! I heard the elevator open, which was impossible during a blackout. We literally jumped from our chairs and onto the adjoining bed. That's when I heard dragging footsteps enter the room, and suddenly the lights were back on. To my horror, the very familiar footsteps stemmed from the door to just near the chair my crucifix was hanging from. That was pretty creepy. I liked that one. That was fun.